Baltimore. Take a listen.
That's been the first check box for me since 2018. You know, I said that April 26th, whenever I was drafted, I said that, you know, and I meant that. But, you know, this the highest level of this game, you know, we play. So you got to go out a champion. That's what I want to be labeled as, a champion, you know, not just MVP here and there. Like, I want to be a champion.
Okay, Brew, is this your S-Bob for Lamar?
Absolutely. Absolutely, it's S-Bob. Now, let me clarify, because, Coach, Nick and Wiles like to take it literally. Oh, what's going to happen if they don't win the Super Bowl? Lamar's not getting cut if they don't win the Super Bowl. John Harbaugh's not getting fired. They're not going rebuild, okay? But they are one of those, and I'm saying I'm going to give you how many teams are S-Bob, all right? But they are one of them that if they don't win the Super Bowl, it is not a successful season. Like, they can get there, they can play close, they can get to overtime. If they don't win the Super Bowl, it is not a successful season. It's Kansas City, Baltimore, Cincinnati, because they've been to the Super Bowl, San Francisco, and I'm going to throw Philadelphia in. They were there 2 years ago. I'm going to throw them in. They could be a little iffy. Then the Rams, some might throw the Rams in just because they've been.
Rams are S-Bob?
No, I'm just saying some might throw the Rams in.
What number are we on?
I'm not with the Rams, but they won it a couple years ago with Matt Stafford, same quarterback. So I'm just saying they might.
They're
and
not
then, of
S-Bob.
course, okay, I'm fine with that.
Okay.
Dallas, because of who they are.
Yep.
They're the Lakers. They're the Yankees, right? They're America's team in their sport. So it's S-Bob. Every year they have a good team. If they're a bad team and we know it and they're going to win 6 games, but if they're a good team, should make the playoffs, it's S-Bob. So back to Lamar.
No Philly?
No, well, I threw Philly. Yeah, I have Philly.
Okay.
I have
Are the
Philly.
Lions S-Bob? Oh, sorry to get us off.
I don't think the
Oh,
Lions are S-Bob.
that's
I
a
think
good
the
one.
Lions, if the Lions get to the Super Bowl
That's fair.
and they lose, don't you think that's still?
That's right. They'd be happy.
Yeah.
That's
I
fair.
mean, you want to win it, but they.
I lost you on like team 7 or 8.
No.
After we got you 30%
I mean,
of the lead.
I will take the Rams out. I'm just saying, they just won a Super Bowl a couple years ago, and they played well this past season. So I don't think McVay's happy if they don't win the Super Bowl.
Not happy.
And you got Stafford there.
Okay.
Okay,
Keep
but
going.
I can roll with that. But Lamar, Coach, he's one of, I think there's maybe 12 guys or so that have won multiple MVPs. And here's the list. And they all have won at least one Super Bowl, save Lamar. All right, so because of his historical greatness with the 2 MVPs, he does have to win the Super Bowl. And every year for Lamar is S-Bob until he gets a Super Bowl. All right, and then when you look at the success he's had in the regular season, he is the 3rd highest winning quarterback ever in the regular season with, minimum 25 starts. Jimmy G was close.
Yeah.
He used to be on that. He moved down. But all of those guys, Coach, have won at least 2 Super Bowls. So, when you play at such a high level, you are expected to win. And then you throw in the Derrick Henry move. And the fact that they actually played Kansas City pretty close last year, even though they didn't play a good game. I definitely think, Coach, S-Bob without question for the
Good
Ravens.
take.
I don't know what S-Bob means because it's Super Bowl or bust, but then when you make 30% of the league Super Bowl or bust,
Well,
it kind of loses a little bit.
I took the Ravens. I got 6 teams
6. Okay, so
because Dallas is always there.
Yeah.
So I understand what you're saying, and I appreciate what you're saying, but when you look at what Lamar's done, so what was he, 58-19 in the regular season, which is incredible.
Yep.
2-time MVP, youngest ever to be a 2-time MVP. Okay, he was the youngest ever to win the Heisman Trophy, and that's what we're forgetting. He's 27 years old. Okay, he's extremely young, and I'm glad you showed the list that you showed of guys who have won the title, because now let me show you the list of guys who won the title and when they won the title. Okay, so Peyton Manning was on your list. He didn't win till he was 30. Steve Young, he was on your list. He didn't win till he was 33. John Elway didn't win till he was 37. Same thing, Drew Brees at 31. So because he's played as long as he has and he's been as successful as he has, we make this assumption that he's got to win right now. But these other quarterbacks that we all consider to be great players, they didn't win till later on. And Baltimore's got challenges. They lost 3 offensive linemen. Their whole defensive staff has changed over. There's been a lot of transition on that team. So to just think it's going to be plug and play because they got Derrick Henry, that's hard.
Can we ask you a question about the defense? Because Brew and I are kind of aligned in this theory that although they have a lot of defensive turnover, somehow a strong Baltimore defense is just kind of woven within the franchise, and guys change, but it seems like they're just tough on defense every year. Are we kind of oversimplifying it? Are you actually worried about Baltimore's defense?
You're always worried about it when you transition because you don't know what the new coordinator is going to bring. Is he going to be consistent with the philosophy that they've had over time? Is he going to bring his system in and force all the players to learn that system? Or is he going to go in and say, okay, this is what's been in place, this is what's been successful, I'm going to incorporate 70% of that, 60%, some significant amount of volume so that the guys aren't relearning everything. And that transition, it's different with each guy. And not only did they lose the coordinator, but they lost coaches at every level of the defense. So there's a lot of experience that left the room.
All right, let's look at the Ravens' schedule. First game, of course, is at Arrowhead. We are 37 days away from that game. I called this a must-win. It's pretty obvious to me. I'm 100% serious that if you have your worst game of the year against Patrick Mahomes in your building, and that ends your season, and all you think about, like, we're going to get better in the offseason. They do get a little bit better at Derrick Henry, but like you said, the defense had a lot of turnover. And you ran a very odd game where at one point you threw the ball, or you at least called 21 straight passing plays. If you go into Arrowhead and lose that game, I think that sets the whole season up in a weird direction. So I'm considering that a must-win.
Yeah, I wouldn't put it quite at the must-win status.
If they lose, Coach, if they lose that game, you think they can? You think that if they lose that game, so Lamar Jackson, who is whatever he's at 58 and 19 in his career, has just lost back-to-back games. You thinking like, you know what? I'll get him the next time around?
See, I would flip that and say it's a must-win for Kansas City.
Wow.
And here's why. When you lower the banner in your stadium, the amount of emotion, the amount of energy that you have in that moment, it's incredible. And we didn't lose any of the games after winning a Super Bowl and opening up the next year. So for Kansas City, if they come out in their attempt to win 3 straight and get steamrolled by Baltimore, who's retooling their offensive line, that to me could set a really bad tone.
Didn't they lose to Detroit last year?
I appreciate that, but now we're at a different level. This is the revamped offense. This is the all the things that we're supposed to see from Kansas City with this incredible energy of 2 straight Super Bowl wins.
I'm gonna say, Coach, if Baltimore does feel like it's a must-win, they won't voice that, of course, but if inside they really feel like, man, we lost to this team again, we can't beat them, or going in like, we gotta win, or this season's gonna be a failure, I don't think they're Super Bowl worthy. To me, that's not the mentality of a champion, that if you lose the first game, I don't care who it's to, that you think the season is, you can't, even you won't say that publicly, but if you feel we're not good enough, I don't think you're a champion inside. And I do think they're champions.
I mean, it is going to be great to see a big, giant fullback, big Derrick Henry, Lamar, and see how effectively they can run it down people's throats.
That's what I'm talking about.
Even with a revamped offensive line, one of the greatest things you can have when you got new guys is the ability to run it down people's throats and to take some pressure off the O-line when they do have to drop back and protect.
Okay. All right, let's talk about Mahomes. Favored to win his 3rd MVP. Here are the odds. Mahomes at 1. Then C.J. Stroud has popped up to number 2. Josh Allen and Joe Burrow tied for 3rd. And then Jordan Love and Lamar tied at 5. So, Coach, we teased it at the top of the show, even though I didn't speak to you. Who's the number 1 threat to Mahomes' MVP chances?
So last year this time, for me, it was Aaron Rodgers. And I would love to be able to pick Aaron Rodgers again. I'm over it. There's too much water under the bridge. There's too much of the.
Rodgers is out.
Yeah, so we're going to take
Coach,
and I don't love the benefit of the doubt that C.J. Stroud is getting, and I appreciate what he achieved and all the success he had, but I think he's too high. To me, it's Joe Burrow, and Joe Burrow, when he's healthy, not only were they top 5 in almost every single offensive category, but he's the guy that's consistently beat Patrick Mahomes, right? He's 3-1 against Mahomes. There's no level of intimidation there for Kansas City. So it's not just about the MVP. It's also about the guy that has the best opportunity to get over that Kansas City hump.
Look, I think Burrow's not a bad pick. But I'm going to say Burrow, the problem or one of the problems is they always start slow, typically because there's an injury or something in training camp where guys aren't there. And here we go again.
Guy holding out.
Right? You got 2 disgruntled receivers. T. Higgins is going to play. I think Chase will play too. But still, if Chase doesn't get paid, who knows where he's at mentally. So I think you have that. And I also think, Coach, I don't think they'll win the division. Like, even the year they went to the Super Bowl, didn't they go 10-6? Was it 10-6? I think they went.
Even with that sweet new hairdo?
Yeah, I'm not feeling the hairdo either.
Okay.
You are.
That is
the Eminem.
I like it.
But so I think that's why I take Burrow. Josh Allen, I think a lot of people think, and I see it, it seems to be set up for him to be a one-man show, right? But when they went 5-0 down the stretch last year, his numbers weren't huge. He only threw for more than 240 yards once. He had 5 touchdowns, 5 interceptions in the last 5 games. So I think they'll win games, but his numbers could be, I'm not sure where they be. So I'm going to take him out. Lamar, there's going to be voter fatigue unless he just does something we haven't seen before. So I'm taking those guys out. And, Coach, I am going to go with C.J. Stroud because I think he's obviously got momentum.
I thought you were going to say Aaron Rodgers when you.
No. He's got momentum coming off his rookie year, right? He's got a very good team, but I don't think people fully believe in it. Like his receiving core with Nico Collins, Tank Dell, now you add Stephon Diggs. That's a great core, but I don't think people necessarily look at it that way. Like, the only big name is Diggs. He's older. He's new. So I just think that CJ has a lot going for him. They're going to win that division. I'd be surprised if they don't win their division. And so I think CJ is going to be the toughest competition.
All right, so I like CJ too, and I'm going to show you a graphic, Coach. I want your take on it. So this seems like a very positive graphic, which it is. Throwing 20-plus yards downfield, completion percentage, he was number 1. Passing rating, he was number 1. 9 touchdowns, no interceptions. He was second. So here's the question, Coach. If you're a defensive coordinator, is that something you're like, well, I'm going to take that away from him, and these huge chunk plays, and is that how I'm trying to find out where the sophomore slump comes from?
Well, look, our philosophy defensively was always the idea of no big plays. So what and especially in the passing game, you're trying to eliminate that and force teams to go the long, hard way and chunk it down the field. And the thought process is if they have to do that, eventually there'll be a mistake, there'll be a sack, there'll be a penalty, there'll be something that'll derail a drive. When you can get those chunk plays and hit those momentum type plays, it changes everything. And then also you start softening up your coverage and everything underneath becomes that much more vulnerable. So yeah, to be able to be that effective as he's been on those chunk type plays, and now you add another dangerous receiver to it, that number should be potentially higher.
Higher? You think he's going to play better?
Well, I mean, they've added a pretty good piece to the receiving core.
I felt like a lot of those plays, a lot of those throws, he surprised. It felt like he was surprising teams. Like, oh, he can do that? Yeah. I don't think he's going to surprise. Like, I feel like everyone should be ready for that.
You do get the benefit of the doubt, and especially when you have a rookie quarterback, you may even take some more chances. You may blitz him more. You may do some things to figure out who he is.
Right.
Now there's a year worth of evaluating who he is, and we'll see now as teams start to take away his strengths, how well he adjusts to areas of weakness.
Okay. All right. From the MVP to the AFC East, Bills looking to win their 5th straight AFC East title. Had a stranglehold on my division since Tom Brady left. Longest active streaks. The Chiefs are at 8. The Bills are at 4. The Bucs, shout out to the Bake Show, and Tom Brady at 3. Which team is the bigger threat to the Bills' run? The Jets or the Dolphins? Or, Coach, you can go off the board and say the Patriots.
Yeah, I'm not going to go off the board and say the Patriots. And the Bills to me have taken a little bit of a step back. And I really admired last season their resilience. And I know they lowered their banner and they had the Super Bowl trophy, and we beat them up for that. And then they went through that down period, but they found a way to win. And I give them a ton of credit for that. I don't know how much better they've gotten this offseason. And you look at Miami, and they should be really effective offensively. They had OBJ. They were already explosive. There's questions as to whether or not, what we saw at the end of the season is the way that they're going to head or not. But it absolutely should be the Jets. It absolutely should be the New York Jets. It should have been the Jets last season. And the biggest question mark, it's not the O-line, which we always talk about the O-line there. And they've added 3 more players on the O-line, which is 30 since, look, it goes on and on and on with that. The question is whether or not we're going to get anything close to what Aaron Rodgers was. And if we get anything close to what he was during his MVP season with the defense that they have, they should easily be able to win the division.
Wow.
Now you're gonna mock
No, that was
coach and scoff at coach like he said the Jets.
No, but
when I say Jets, Jets,
Brew.
But it said
he said that he
question mark, Brew.
Exactly. He said the question
is the question health? Look, I don't think Rodgers. I think if he's pretty good, not MVP level Aaron Rodgers, but he's like playing above average starting quarterback. With that defense, which has been top 5 in the league the last 2 years in total defense, and they had the worst quarterback play in the league, so the defense is in bad field position. They're not getting any support from the offense, and they still were top 5. They beat Buffalo, they beat Philadelphia, and Houston with no quarterback play last year. 7 wins with no quarterback play. So if he's just pretty good, I think, Coach, that's should be 10 wins. So it's definitely the Jets. He's got weapons, running back, receivers. Mike Williams is already on the PUP list, which bothers me a little bit because that was a question with Williams.
But you did talk about health, and
that's a huge.
And again, it's them trying to fix the offensive line, and they bring in the 3 free agents. They draft another high draft choice. But the continuity of an offensive line, it takes some time for guys to work together, to understand how each one fits, to understand what the quarterback wants. And they're in the same place, it seems, every year where we have this discussion about them revamping their offensive line. And we're a year removed. We've got a year older quarterback coming off an injury with a bunch of new parts in the most important spot for him.
So all of this still new, even though Aaron Rodgers has been there a year, still a lot of new parts and new system for Rodgers to actually take the ball. You're not playing him any preseason games, are you?
No, I wouldn't take that chance. He lasted,
4 plays.
4 plays last year. So, yeah, just sit him on the shelf. Him coming out with no practice at all is going to be better than what they played with the whole season last year.
So Saleh said he's not going to play any preseason games. He's going to go in, and then he's going to play the San Francisco 49ers, who just are a tough team, a rough team. They manhandle you. We had that stat. I think last year they were, what were they? Eight teams were 8-8 after they played the 49ers, and the year before that, I don't think they won a game. If you lost to the 49ers, you lose your next game because they would just kind of physically manhandle you. How do you see that first game going for Aaron Rodgers?
The first game is tough across the board, so you have no idea what the other teams do, what they worked on. But that also plays to New York as well, because San Francisco there's not a ton of things that they're going to be able to key in on with him in the game. Hopefully they'll run it early. They'll run it often and early to try to take some pressure off of Aaron, as opposed to, hey, we're going to open it up with 10 passes and see whether our new O-line can hold up.
I'm going to tell you what Wiles didn't say, Coach. He wants to leave Rodgers in New York for that game.
What do you mean?
You don't want him to play that game.
Aaron Rodgers?
Yeah.
No.
Because you think he might get hurt.
I would play. No, I would play him in the preseason. I think it's
really.
Yeah,
Here's the problem. And it wouldn't be Saleh's fault, but if he got hurt in the preseason, can you imagine?
Yeah, but now
you're done.